The Great Chamber of the Galactic Council was the largest room ever built by any species in the known universe. It floated in the darkness of space, attached to nothing, a perfect sphere of white stone and golden light. For 10,000 years, the most powerful beings in the galaxy had gathered here to make laws and pass judgments. Today, they had come to kill a human girl. Kira Vance stood alone in the center of the chamber. She was 17 years old. Her brown hair was pulled back in a simple tail, and she still wore the rough clothes of a farm worker. Dirt remained under her fingernails from yesterday's work in the fields. Around her, rising up like mountains on every side, sat the representatives of 300 different species. She had never seen so many aliens in one place. The Velthari were made of living crystal, their bodies catching the light and throwing rainbows across the walls. The Goruun were massive creatures, each one the size of a small building, with gray skin like stone and eyes that glowed red. The Whisperkin had no solid bodies at all. They floated in special containers, looking like clouds of silver mist, high above everyone else. On a throne carved from a single black diamond, sat Supreme Adjudicator Zethran. He was the oldest and most powerful member of the Dominion species. His body was covered in hard plates, like armor made of bone. Six Eyes looked down at Kira with cold intelligence. His people had ruled this council since before humans learned to make fire. The human colony of Terrace Fourth has broken our law, Zethran said. His voice filled the chamber without effort. They planted crops on land that belongs to the Velmori expansion. This land was sacred. This land was protected. The humans knew this and did not care. Kira wanted to shout that this was a lie. The colonists had been given that land. They had documents. They had permission, but the Velmori had decided they wanted it back, and the council always sided with the older species. The punishment for this crime, Zethran continued, is death. One death for each acre of sacred land that was violated. A cold feeling spread through Kira's chest. The colony had farmed 12,000 acres. However, the Supreme Adjudicator said, and something like pleasure entered his voice, the council offers mercy. One life, given freely, may pay for all the others. Your colony has chosen you, child. Do you accept this judgment? The chamber fell silent. Every eye, every sensor, every strange alien sense focused on the small human girl standing alone in that vast space. Kira remembered the night she had volunteered. Her parents had been crying. Her little brother, only 8 years old, had not understood what was happening. The colony leaders had explained that someone had to die, or everyone would die. They were going to draw names randomly. Kira had not waited for the drawing. She had walked into the selection hall and said she would go. She was young and had no children of her own. It made sense. It was logical. She had told herself these things over and over on the long journey to the council chamber. Now, standing here, she felt her heart beating fast and hard. She was afraid. She did not want to die, but more than fear, she felt something else growing inside her chest. Anger. I have a question, Kira said. Her voice sounded small in the enormous chamber, but it was steady. Zethran's 6 eyes narrowed. People did not ask questions during judgment. Speak, he said. In 10,000 years, how many times has this council executed a member of the founding species? How many Dominion have died for their crimes? How many Velthari? How many Goruun? The silence changed. It became uncomfortable. Heavy. That is not relevant to your case, Zethran said. The answer is 0, Kira said. Never. Not once. Your laws only apply to species like mine, young species, weak species, species that cannot fight back. You will be silent. No. The word echoed through the chamber. Several delegates gasped. No one spoke to the Supreme Adjudicator this way. I do not accept your judgment. I do not accept your authority. Your council is not about justice. It is about power. It is about keeping everyone else beneath you. Zethran rose from his throne. His full height was terrifying. He towered over the chamber like a god of war, his bone armor plates spreading out like wings. Then you choose death not just for yourself, but for your entire species. Every human world will burn for your arrogance, child. Maybe, Kira said. And then she did something strange. She smiled. It was not the smile of a scared girl. It was not the smile of someone who had given up hope. It was the smile of someone who knew something that no one else in the room knew. Several delegates felt sudden fear without understanding why. But you will not live to see it, Kira said. She moved. No one saw what happened next. The security systems, designed by the most advanced species in the galaxy, recorded only a blur. One moment, Kira was standing in the center of the chamber. The next moment, she was standing over the body of Supreme Adjudicator Zethran. He was dead. His neck was broken. His 6 eyes stared at nothing. The being who had ruled the Galactic Council for 3,000 years, who had survived assassination attempts by 100 different species, who had personal shields that could stop any known weapon, had been killed by a human girl in less than 1 second. The chamber exploded into chaos. Delegates screamed and ran for the exits. Guards rushed in with weapons drawn, but they did not know what to do. The girl just stood there, breathing normally, looking up at the panicking crowd with calm eyes. "What are you?" someone shouted. Kira looked at the 300 species now scrambling over each other in their fear. These were the rulers of the galaxy. These were the beings who had decided her people were worth nothing, who had demanded 12,000 innocent lives for the crime of farming land they had been promised. "I am humanity's answer," she said quietly. "We have been waiting for you to push us too far. Thank you for finally doing it." The message spread across the galaxy within hours. A human child had killed the Supreme Adjudicator. The most powerful being in the Council was dead, and somewhere out in the darkness between stars, humanity was not the weak and primitive species everyone had believed. They were something else entirely, and they were just getting started. 2 days after the death of the Supreme Adjudicator, the Dominion sent their war fleet to Earth. High Admiral Vorath stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment. He was a Dominion warrior, born and raised for battle. His bone armor was decorated with the marks of 50 victories. Behind him, spread across the darkness of space, flew 12,000 warships. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in the history of the galaxy. "We will make an example of these humans," Vorath said to his officers. "Every city will burn. Every colony will be destroyed. When we are finished, no one will ever again dare to challenge the Council." His officers nodded in agreement. This would be easy. Humans were a primitive species. They had only been traveling between stars for 300 years. Their ships were slow, and their weapons were weak. The war would be over in hours. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel and entered the Sol system. Earth hung in the darkness ahead, a small blue ball covered in white clouds. The moon floated beside it like a gray companion. Vorath smiled. "Begin the..." He stopped. Something was wrong. "Where are their ships?" he demanded. His officers looked at their screens and found nothing. Earth was there. The moon was there. But every human ship, every space station, every satellite was gone. It was as if humanity had simply disappeared into the darkness. "Scan again," Vorath ordered. "They must be hiding somewhere." Before anyone could respond, the ship shook violently. Alarms started screaming. Red lights flashed everywhere. "What is happening?" Vorath shouted. "We are under attack, Admiral." "From where?" "I see nothing." On the tactical display, one of his battle cruisers vanished, not destroyed in fire and explosion. It simply stopped existing, like someone had erased it from reality. Then another ship disappeared. Then 12 more. The crew was in panic. They could not see any enemy. They could not detect any weapons. Ships were dying all around them, and there was nothing to fight back against. "There!" someone shouted. "I see something." Vorath looked at the screen. For just a moment, he saw something impossible. Ships that seemed to be made of shadows and starlight, moving faster than anything he had ever seen, passing through space like ghosts. Then they were gone again, invisible to every sensor. "What are those things?" Vorath whispered. No one answered. No one knew. In 17 minutes, the entire Dominion war fleet was destroyed. 12,000 ships, 2 million soldiers, gone. High Admiral Vorath was the last to die, and his final thought was a question that would haunt the galaxy for years to come. How had the humans done this? Far from the battlefield, in a place that did not appear on any map, a group of humans watched the destruction on their screens. The room was simple and clean. White walls, soft lighting, comfortable chairs. It looked like an ordinary meeting room in an ordinary office, but this place existed in a fold of space that no other species knew how to find. It had been here for 200 years, and no one outside humanity had ever seen it. Director Chen sat at the head of the table. She was an old woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but there was steel beneath her gentle appearance. According to all official records, she had died 40 years ago. This was a lie, like so many other things about humanity. Kira stood beside her, watching the last Dominion ships die on the screen. "You did well," Director Chen said, "though some members of our council would have preferred you wait a few more years before revealing us." Kira shook her head. They were going to kill 12,000 people, families, children, for farming land that we were given permission to use. "I know." Chen's voice became soft. "That is exactly why we placed you on that colony. We knew the council would eventually target one of our worlds with their false justice. We needed the right person there when it happened. Someone who would not hesitate." Kira turned away from the screen. "What am I?" she asked. It was a question she had been forbidden to ask her entire life. "What are we?" Chen stood and walked to another screen. She pressed a button, and images appeared. Strange diagrams, genetic codes, pictures of technology that looked more like living creatures than machines. 300 years ago, Chen began, we discovered that we were not alone in the universe, but we did not meet the other species in friendship. We found their records, their plans. We learned that they had been watching us for thousands of years, waiting for us to develop enough technology to be useful. Useful for what? Labor. Serving them. They planned to make first contact when we reached a certain level of development. Then they would fold us into their empire at the very bottom. We would have been slaves in everything but name. Kira felt sick, so we hid. We did more than hide. Chen pulled up more images. We had perhaps 200 years before they would contact us officially. So we used that time wisely. Project Prometheus. We changed ourselves. Made ourselves stronger, faster, smarter. We developed technology they cannot see, cannot understand, cannot fight against. The colony worlds, Kira said slowly, understanding coming like cold water. They are not really primitive farming settlements. They are camouflage. Every human on every colony knows exactly what they are and what is coming. Your parents, your neighbors, your teachers. They are all operatives. The simple farmers of Terrace 4? Chen smiled. 17 of them could have done what you did to Zethran. We chose you because you are young. You would be underestimated. And because your heart is as strong as your body. Kira absorbed this information. Her whole life had been a carefully constructed lie. Her childhood, her friends, her daily routine. All of it had been part of a plan she never knew about. But also, somehow, it was all true. She really had loved her home. She really had been willing to die for it. That had not been fake. What happens now? She asked. Now we stop hiding, Chen said. Now the galaxy learns what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. When you assume that because someone does not fight back, they cannot fight back. She pressed another button. On the screen, a message began broadcasting to every corner of the galaxy. It showed human ships emerging from hiding, not the slow, clumsy vessels the Council had expected. These ships were beautiful and terrible, moving through space like predators hunting prey. We have been patient for 300 years, Chen said. We have watched. We have waited. We have prepared. And now, finally, we are ready to introduce ourselves. Kira watched the message spread across the stars. The galaxy would never be the same, and somewhere, in the ruins of the Dominion fleet, a new era was beginning. The Galactic Council met again 3 days after their fleet was destroyed. This time, they did not gather in the Great Chamber. That room was still sealed as a crime scene, with the body of Supreme Adjudicator Zethran lying where he had fallen. Instead, the delegates met in an underground bunker, deep beneath the surface of Nexus Prime. The walls were thick enough to stop any weapon known to science. The shields were the strongest ever built. None of this made anyone feel safe. 300 species crowded into a room designed for 100. They pushed against each other, shouted over each other, blamed each other. Fear made them angry, and anger made them stupid. "We must strike back," roared a Goruan delegate, slamming his massive fist against the wall. "Send every ship we have. Burn their worlds." "With what ships?" Avilthari replied, her crystal body flickering with nervous light. The Dominion fleet was the most powerful force in the galaxy. The humans destroyed it in 17 minutes. "Then we surrender. We beg for mercy. We are the Galactic Council. We do not beg. We will be destroyed. We will—" Silence. The word cut through the noise like a blade through paper. Everyone stopped talking. Everyone turned to look at the speaker's platform. A human woman stood there. She had not been there a moment ago. 17 different security systems had been watching that platform. None of them had detected her arrival. She had simply appeared, as if she had always been there and everyone had just noticed her. She was old, with gray hair and a calm face. She wore simple clothes, nothing fancy or impressive, but something about her made every being in the room feel small. "My name is Director Chen," she said. Her voice was not loud, but it reached every corner of the bunker. "I represent the true human government, not the puppet colonies you have been looking down on for 3 centuries. How did you get in here?" The interim adjudicator demanded. He was a young Dominion, promoted suddenly after Zethran's death. His voice shook slightly. "The same way we have been in every council meeting for the past 200 years, Chen replied. "Watching, learning, waiting." She smiled, and it was not a friendly smile. "We have very good notes. Would anyone like to hear some?" No one spoke. The Goruan Arms deals with the outlawed Razor clans. The Whisperkin genetic experiments on unwilling subjects from younger species. The Dominion's quiet program to make certain species unable to have children. Chen looked around the room. All of it documented. All of it saved. "We know exactly what each of you has done." The silence was heavy and thick. Some delegates looked at the floor. Others looked at each other with suspicion and fear. "What do you want?" the interim adjudicator finally asked. 3 things, Chen said. She held up one finger. "First, the immediate end of all laws that treat younger species as less important. No more special privileges for the founding species. No more one-sided justice." She held up a second finger. "Second, payment to every species that has suffered under council rule. The founding species have become rich by taking from others. Now you will give it back." She held up a third finger. "Third, an apology. A real one. Broadcast to every world in the galaxy. Admitting what you have done. Naming the victims. Telling the truth. You ask for everything." Someone shouted. "I ask for justice," Chen said. Her voice hardened. "Something this council has never provided. You have 72 hours to accept these terms. After that, we stop being polite." The interim adjudicator stepped forward. He was trying to be brave, but sweat was dripping down his face. "And if we refuse, will you destroy us? Will you prove that you are no better than the empire you claim to hate?" "No." Chen shook her head slowly. "If you refuse, we will do something much worse. We will leave." Confusion spread through the room. "Leave? That was the threat? We will take every species that wants to come with us," Chen continued. "We will build something new, something better. And we will leave you here, alone, with each other." She looked around the bunker at the 300 delegates. "How long do you think your alliance will last when there is no one left to exploit? How long before you turn on each other? You have stayed together because you needed victims. What happens when the victims are gone?" No one answered, but many delegates were already looking at their allies with new eyes, calculating, planning, wondering who would strike first. 72 hours, Chen repeated. "Choose wisely." And then she was gone. One moment she was standing on the platform. The next moment, she simply was not there anymore. The security systems showed nothing. It was as if she had never existed. For a long time, no one spoke. Then, slowly, the arguing began again. But it was different now. The founding species no longer trusted each other. The younger species were whispering together in corners. Everyone was thinking about what Chen had said. What would happen when there was no one left to exploit? The countdown had begun. 72 hours to decide the fate of the galaxy. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to surrender. Some wanted to run and hide. But deep down, everyone knew the truth. The humans held all the power now. They could destroy the council if they wanted to. They could take over the entire galaxy by force. Instead, they had offered a choice. That scared the delegates more than anything else. Because it meant the humans were confident. It meant they did not fear any possible answer. Whatever the council decided, the humans were ready. And for the first time in 10,000 years, the Great Galactic Council was not the most powerful force in the universe. They were just another species waiting to see what would happen next. Kira returned to Terrace 4 on the second day of the countdown. The colony looked exactly as she remembered it. Small houses with white walls and red roofs. Fields of golden grain stretching toward the horizon. Children playing in the streets while their parents worked. The sky was pale blue with thin white clouds, and the air smelled of growing things. Everything was the same. But Kira was different. She walked through the town center, and people stopped to look at her. They knew who she was now. They knew what she had done. Some nodded with respect. Others smiled with something like pride. A few looked away, unable to meet her eyes. Her family's farm was on the edge of the settlement, surrounded by fields of tall corn. The house was small but comfortable, built by her father's own hands 20 years ago. Kira walked up the dirt path slowly, feeling the weight of everything she had learned. Her mother was waiting on the porch. Sarah Vance was a tall woman with gray-streaked brown hair and strong hands. She looked like any other farmer's wife. She looked like someone who had spent her whole life growing food and raising children. But Kira knew better now. "You could have told me," Kira said as she reached the porch steps. Her mother looked at her with sad, understanding eyes. "Would you have believed us? Would you have lived a real life if you knew it was all a performance?" Kira did not answer. She sat down on the steps, and her mother sat beside her. They looked out at the fields together, at the corn swaying gently in the wind. "We wanted you to be real," her mother continued, "to actually love this place, to actually care about the people here, because that is what makes you dangerous. Dangerous? You did not kill Zethran because of some grand plan. You did not do it because someone told you to. You did it because you love your home, because you would not let them hurt the people you care about." Her mother put a hand on Kira's shoulder. "That kind of love cannot be faked. It cannot be trained. It has to be real." Kira thought about this. "So my whole life was..." "What? A test? Your whole life was your life. The love was real. The friendships were real. The only thing we kept from you was the larger truth." Her mother sighed. "Every person on this colony knows what they are. Every one of them has trained for years, prepared for the day when we would stop hiding. But we did not tell the children. We wanted you to have real childhoods. Real happiness. Real connections. What about Dad? Where is he?" "Coordinating with the defense network. There are still Dominion ships trying to reach our worlds. He will be back soon." Kira looked at her hands. These were the hands that had killed the most powerful being in the galaxy. They did not look any different. They were still just hands. "What if the Council chooses war?" she asked. Her mother was quiet for a moment. "Then, we will end it. Quickly. Cleanly. With as little suffering as possible. We have spent 300 years preparing for that possibility. We are very good at ending things. That is not who I want us to be. Neither do we." Her mother squeezed her shoulder. "That is why we gave them a choice. That is why we always give choices. Violence is easy, Kira. Anyone can destroy. The hard part is knowing when not to use your power." Kira watched a bird fly across the field and land on a fence post. Such a simple thing. Such a normal, everyday thing. Hard to believe that somewhere out there, hundreds of species were deciding whether to go to war with humanity. "Do you think they will accept our terms?" she asked. "Some will, some will not. The Dominion is too proud to bend. They would rather die than admit they were wrong. But many of the younger species will see this as their chance for freedom, and some of the founding species are smart enough to know when they have lost. And the ones who refuse, we will let them go their own way. We will not force anyone to join us. That would make us no better than them. Her mother smiled slightly. Your father disagrees. He thinks we should crush them completely. Make sure they can never threaten anyone again. We have been arguing about it for years. Kira almost laughed. Even among the hidden protectors of humanity, there were arguments and disagreements. Somehow, that made everything feel more real. What happens to me now? She asked. Am I supposed to be a soldier, a leader, a symbol? That is up to you. Her mother said. You can be whatever you want to be. Some people will want you to be a hero, a face for the movement. Others will want you to train, to become even stronger, to lead armies. But you do not have to do any of those things. What do you want? Her mother looked at her with love in her eyes. I want you to be happy. I want you to find your own path. I want you to use your strength to help others. But I do not want you to lose yourself in the process. She paused. Your grandmother wanted the same thing for me, long ago. I did not always listen. Sometimes I wish I had. Kira leaned against her mother's shoulder, just like she had when she was a little girl. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Somewhere up there, beyond the clouds, the fate of the galaxy was being decided. But here, on this small farm on a small colony on the edge of human space, a mother and daughter sat together and watched the day end. Some things were more important than wars and empires. Some things were worth fighting for precisely because they were simple and quiet and ordinary. Kira understood that now. And whatever came next, she would not forget it. On the 71st hour, the Galactic Council transmitted its answer. The vote was not unanimous. The Dominion had withdrawn completely, refusing to participate. 3 other founding species had joined them, too proud and angry to accept humanity's terms. They declared that they would form their own alliance and fight to the last ship. No one expected them to survive very long, but the rest of the council, more than 250 species, voted yes. They accepted the terms, they agreed to the changes, and most importantly, they agreed to tell the truth. The broadcast began on every world, every station, every ship in the known galaxy. Billions of beings stopped what they were doing to watch. The interim adjudicator appeared on screen. He looked tired and old, though he was actually quite young by Dominion standards. The weight of history pressed down on his shoulders. We, the Galactic Council, acknowledge our failures, he began. His voice was heavy with shame. For 10,000 years, we have claimed to represent justice and fairness for all species. This was a lie, he went on. He named crimes that had been hidden for centuries. He spoke of species that had been wiped out, of worlds that had been stolen, of children who had been taken from their parents and sold into slavery. He admitted that the founding species had grown rich and powerful by crushing everyone beneath them. It was not a perfect apology. There were things left unsaid, crimes that were glossed over, blame that was shifted, but it was real. It was the first time in 10,000 years that the Council had admitted any wrongdoing at all. When the interim adjudicator finished, the screen changed. Director Chen appeared, standing in a room filled with light. To every species in the galaxy, she said, humanity offers its friendship. Not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as partners. Behind her, images appeared. Human ships and alien ships flying together. Human doctors treating alien patients. Human teachers sitting with alien students. Scenes of cooperation and connection that had never been possible under the old council. We have built technology that could reshape reality, Chen continued. We have developed abilities that make us very difficult to kill, but we did not do any of this to control you. We did it so that one day, we could stand beside you as equals. She paused, looking directly into the camera. It felt like she was looking at each viewer personally. You were never given a choice before. The founding species decided your fate without asking what you wanted. That ends today. From now on, every species chooses its own path. You can join us. You can stand alone. You can do whatever you want with your own worlds and your own people." She smiled, and for the first time, it was a warm smile. "Choose freely, choose carefully, and know that whatever you decide, we will respect it. That is what it means to be human." The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, celebrations erupted. Species that had been oppressed for thousands of years danced in their streets. Former slaves wept with joy. Children who had grown up believing they would always be second-class citizens looked at the stars with new hope. Not everyone was happy, of course. The Dominion and their allies were already preparing for war. They would rather fight and die than accept a universe where they were not in charge. But that was their choice, and humanity would respect it, even as they prepared to end the threat forever. 3 months later, the new Galactic Assembly held its first session. The meeting took place in a new building, constructed in neutral space by workers from 100 different species. It was not as grand as the old council chamber, but it was beautiful in its own way, simple and clean, with room for everyone to sit together as equals. Kira was not there. She had declined every offer of a position or a title. Instead, she had gone back to Terra Sephor, back to the farm, back to the simple life she had always known. But she kept a communication device with her, just in case. She was working in the fields when her little brother came running toward her, out of breath with excitement. "Ships!" he shouted. "Ships are landing at the port." Kira set down her tools. "What kind of ships?" "3 species we have never seen before. They came from far away, from beyond the edge of mapped space. They heard the broadcast, and they want to join us." Kira looked up at the sky. She could see the contrails of descending vessels, thin white lines against the blue. 3 new species, coming to be part of something better. 3 civilizations that had been alone in the darkness, now finding their way home. This was what they had fought for. Not power, not revenge, not control over the galaxy. They had fought for this moment, when strangers could become friends, when the universe could begin to heal. "Well," Kira said, smiling at her brother, "let us go welcome them." They walked toward the port together, a 17-year-old girl and an 8-year-old boy. Behind them, the fields of golden grain swayed in the wind. Above them, the sky was full of possibilities. 300 years of hiding, 1 moment of defiance. And now, a new beginning, for everyone. The galaxy would face many challenges in the years to come. The Dominion and their allies would fight until they could fight no more. Old wounds would take time to heal. Trust would have to be built slowly, carefully, through countless small acts of kindness and cooperation. But for the first time in 10,000 years, there was hope, real hope. And it had started with one girl who refused to accept injustice. One girl who stood alone in a great chamber and said no. One girl who proved that strength is not about destroying your enemies. It is about protecting what you love. Kira reached the port just as the first alien stepped off the landing ramp. It was a creature unlike anything she had ever seen, with 4 arms and skin like flowing water. It looked around nervously, clearly unsure of what to expect. Kira stepped forward and held out her hand. "Welcome," she said simply. "Welcome home." The alien looked at her hand, then at her face, then at the humans and other species gathering around them with friendly smiles. Slowly, carefully, it reached out and took her hand, and the new age began.